Hello, everybody. Welcome to the LVLing Up Live vodcast, where I talk to brilliant minds in the project management arena. And I'm very excited to be talking to Tom James today, who comes as you're the first person on the vodcast, Tom, who's had project coordination experience. We've had project managers, we've had EAs, we've had all different types of people, but no coordinators. So I'm very keen on your insights on things. I'll let you introduce yourself in a minute, Tom, but you're so much more than a project coordinator. You've got all these wonderful other things that you can do. So, it's a good segue. Over to you, Tom. Tell us a bit about you, where you're working, what your background is.
Fantastic. Well, my name's Tom. So I work as a project coordinator and I do various other stuff. So I'm actually a physio at an Oc Health company, but I did a little bit of study, just a grad cert in project management, which kind of helped bring a little bit of that technical expertise into the business. Being a smaller business that I'm in at the moment, project management maturity is not at a hugely high level, and it's something that we're working on improving. So we're definitely not at that, PMO level or anything like that. And essentially, yeah, like my background is from construction, that sort of thing as well, previous to physio. So a bit of a random mix there. So I do have a lot of experience with gathering requirements and scoping out things. That's kind of the bread and butter of what I do. As the project coordinator myself at my current gig, it's a bit different in that it blends into some of that program coordination sort of stuff, zooming out from time to time and having a look at where we're going as a business as well. So
Beautiful. And I always draw on this, like having a varied background, and yours is much more varied than mine. So you've got construction, you're physio, you're doing projects. What do you find, like, what's your special magic power of doing those different industries and knowing all those like different types of people? Do you bring that into your role now?
yeah, I think one of the biggest things is just being confident enough to get in there and not know everything and get the right information from the right people. I think that is the biggest thing, is that no one knows absolutely everything or how everything works, but it's important to convey that information across to the right people.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's get started. We do have some questions which we've prepared. I'd love to know though, you've been doing projects and project coordination for a while. Has there been a standout project or an initiative that you've implemented that you thought, oh, that's really cool? And why? Why did you love it?
Yes, so the one that came to mind immediately was the IT space. So essentially, the company was looking to move to a new CRM platform. And as you would know, IT projects are tricky and they can go over budget and over schedule almost always.
Everyone always, yes.
So immediately I was a little bit like, okay, like this will be interesting. But essentially it was great because there was a very broad kind of success criteria for what the company wanted. And so it was a process of building out what the scope looked like. And they were pretty open to like making that big enough to a certain degree so that you could get a lot more out of it. So there was a lot of opportunities to be kind of made the most of during that process. So rather than just, hey, a CRM and we're going to use it, it was, all right, well, where does this fit in with the business strategy and that sort of thing?
That's awesome. And not always done. It sounds so obvious. Just like talking to people seems so obvious, but we don't always do it. We get really busy. I've seen so many times where, companies have this great idea of this new software or this platform like a CRM. That happens all the time. And they don't look at the peripherals. So that was awesome that it was more strategic in its implementation.
Yeah. And like it's one of those things where with any project like this, that's really easy to try to be bang, done and dusted and get it done. But I think one of the good things is we had a moment to step back and say, why are we doing this project? And what are some of the better things we can get from it as a result afterwards, finished as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, nice. Thank you for sharing that. Of course, where there are good projects, there are the dodgy ones. We love them, but things go wrong. I think what's the stat? 70% of projects don't even make it to the end. So things go wrong all the time because environments change. Have you ever come across one of those types of projects? And you obviously don't need to go into heaps of detail, but I'd love to know the learnings of, were there any like key learnings and maybe why the CRM project was such a good one?
Yeah, I think, yeah, definitely have seen a few of those. And generally the main things that happened, I'm just trying to think of one in particular, was kind of like an auditing accreditation process for a business. And essentially it was one of those things where there's the optimism bias, oh, this is pretty easy to do, let's just do it ourselves. And then it turned into kind of like a slog, and it drew on and drew on, and it stressed a lot of people out and cost a lot more money than initially thought. And everyone kind of at the end of it was like, why didn't we just sit down and nut out like the requirements and scope this out properly? And it was like, that makes total sense. Why don't you do that? But it's just one of those things where when you're newer to running projects, it's not that intuitive. Everyone wants to just do it and get it done. It's the classic trap.
It is a classic trap. You're absolutely right. And I think as well, my advice to projects, and I say this sometimes, is don't be afraid to have a look at the requirements again, because like, as I said, things change in a business. Mm-hmm. Sometimes requirements can be written by completely different people who are now on the project or at a completely different point in time. You don't have to like follow them to a T. Things change. So I like those tips, Tom. Make sure you have requirements. That helps. Make sure everyone's across them and agree with the requirements, and then, just check in on them throughout time and see if they still make sense. Because there are times where you go, we are not delivering to scope and we really should park this project. That happens all the time. So
totally. Having the balls to be able to actually say, let's stop. Is actually really tough for a business.
100%. It's one of the ballsiest decisions you can make and put forward as a project manager or a project coordinator. If you can see the writing on the wall to go, we gotta make a really hard decision here, and to put that forward to a sponsor or your manager, maybe that's why it doesn't happen enough. Maybe let's all challenge ourselves. Look hard at our project. Well, you can reinvest that time and energy elsewhere.
Well, that's exactly right.
Do more good. All right. Well, we've only got one last question, which I ask everybody because I love this. This is where we get really cool knowledge and insights. But what are your tips? So it doesn't have to be just in project coordination. It can be projects generally, or, project sponsors who run project teams and have a lot under their belt. What are your top 3 tips for delivering really great projects?
I think one of the first things that I myself try to do is understand who you're working with. So everyone is really different. It's more of a people management thing than most people realize. It's not just technical skills. So the communication and just asking the simple question of, how do you like this to be communicated? And, the sponsor might want just a rag starter, red, amber, green. Is the project on track or is it not? And other stakeholders might like a detailed itinerary, you know what I mean? Like
page document, yeah.
And if you send them a status update, they might be like, what the heck's this? So just check in at the start and go, how do you like to be communicated with throughout this project, and how often should we do it? And
that's really good advice. Again, it seems so straightforward, but I think the key takeaway I've got from that, Tom, is everyone is different, likes communicating in a different way. So just ask them.
I like that. That's it. Keep it simple, stupid, right?
Yeah, nice. I like that.
In terms of the second one, I guess this is more of a discipline habit sort of thing. It's again, communication. Like I think it's like over 90% of what you do as a project manager, coordinator, whatever. So if I'm emailing people, for example, making a request, hey, I need X, Y, Z, one of the things that I would recommend is really clearly stating why you need it, the importance of what you're asking them, and when you need it by. And it may take you a little bit longer to do that rather than just say, hey, can you send me this? Sometimes if that requires a bit of work and they understand why they're doing it, they're going to get it done because they understand this is going to hold up the project. Hey, I need this because if we don't get this by tomorrow, I can't make a decision, can't move forward with the project. It's going to have an impact on the cost or scope. So that's a big one.
That makes so much sense. I'm going to write that on a sticky note and stick it next to my desk. Be clear on what you're asking, why are you asking it, and when do you need it by. I think you've just short-wired everyone's thinking process when they get that request. So again, you don't see it enough. This is great. This is gold. What is the last tip for us?
So again, this is where I think managing up is important. So if you can remember to zoom out from time to time and not just get stuck in the reads, which is really easy to do, especially with the more technical projects.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of comes back to more a general view that project management is change management. It's projects are always going to involve some sort of change process or operations systems, whatever it is, usually, or a new service or whatever it might be, new product. So zooming out and having a look at where that fits in with the rest of the projects that a business is running. And often businesses are running several projects at a time. And so just touching base with a couple of the other people higher up and just saying, hey, look, this is coming out here. If it's not, if it's not something that's really strategically planned out, then that's important to go and just check in with the senior leaders with the company, is my opinion there.
Yeah, I love that. There seems to be a bit of a theme in our conversation today, Tom. Zooming out, look at the bigger picture, make sure it still makes sense. Really, really great advice. Thank you. And you would see that being a project coordinator. You got the intimate details. You see the micro all the time. You having that macro view of things and where does it fit in is brilliant. Game changer. Oh, this is energizing. Thank you, Tom. That has been an excellent conversation. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. You can see this recording on all good social media channels. I'm just trying to think of what they are. Of course, it's LinkedIn, it's YouTube, it's the Level Up website. But Tom, thank you so much for letting us know, your perspectives as a project coordinator. I think there's a lot of project professionals that will take a lot away from what you've mentioned today. And of course, who knew? Physio and ex-carpenter, I think, by trade. You can do projects as well. So project coordination is in everyone's future. Thanks so much for your time, Tom. We'll see you next time on the Leveling Up project.